Jennifer.
Hi.
Thank you for the warm welcome.
The dramatic
Thank you.
entrance.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's very nice to see you here. There's this phenomena that happens on the first day of school, and I like to call it the kindergarten phenomena. Think back to when you were in kindergarten, your own experiences. Remember when you ran toward the learning. Right? Backpack full of dreams, your new pencils, all of your art supplies, that first lunch box. You were so excited. The thrill, the excitement of the unexpected, where everything was new, and you could feel the butterflies, right? You were ready to play and make friends, and you were filled with wonder, and the fear of failure was not even a thing. Remember when you were a superhero, right? You thought you were gonna fly to the moon and conquer the world, and you were gonna be able to do everything. You were curious about everything. You had this excitement for learning. Yeah, remember those feelings? And you were a superhero. So, and your mom loved everything you made. Remember when you came home and you had construction paper with cotton balls on it and popsicle sticks? It hung on the refrigerator until you were 18, it was faded by the sun, and you said, please take that down, my friends are coming over, right? And it was so fun to be a learner that you said, I want to be a teacher. I can't wait to be a teacher when I grow up. So I'm the oldest of 7, so naturally my first teaching job was at 10, and I taught my brothers and sisters. It was ideal for my first teaching gig, small class size, personalized learning, right? And I would set the basement up with my first classroom, and I would call to the top of the stairs, it's time for school, and they would all run downstairs to come and learn. Well, look at these people, they turned out okay. This is the class in 1970. Right? Although my sister still blames me for her terrible handwriting. But in high school, I lost my love for learning. And sitting in class and listening to lectures and the chalk and talk was just not the type of learner that I am. I needed active and engaging learning. I took notes to stay awake because, of course, that was before Monster drinks and coffee. So I had to use that tactic, but I barely made it. And I remember my mother giving me a graduation card that said, Dear Chrissy, we weren't really sure that you were gonna be able to make it. And that was the opening line of her congratulations. And so for the next 15 years, I left high school and I went to work. But when my daughter was in middle school, a middle school teacher changed my life, because middle school teachers can change the lives of adults too, right? Middle school teachers have superpowers. I volunteered at my daughter's middle school. We wrote the school newspaper together. I was her homeroom mom, and a teacher said to me, you should go to school and be a teacher. You'd be such a great teacher. You're so good with kids. And I was like, are you crazy? I'm 39. I'll be 44 when I'm done. And she said, you'll be 44 either way. And I was like, damn her logic. Damn. So I went to college at 39, and I did an undergraduate degree in mathematics with a concentration of education. But one of the things that happened was education in high school happened to me, and I had to grapple again with all of those feelings. The feelings of going back to school meant that I had to have those feelings again that I had in high school. And there's a lot of anxiety around that learning, right? I was struck with fear. I was terrified of failure. It was risky and uncomfortable. And I was going to be a math major. That could have been part of the problem. But I wanted to make sure that I had to figure out how to overcome that feelings from high school. So as I started to take my first college classes and choose my own learning path, and take the classes that really mattered to me, I could come into the regular heartbeat of learning. I could feel the success and the excitement and the accomplishment and be comfortable in the learning. And I learned to be a lifelong learner at that point, and I loved learning. So in 2005, I transformed my basement experience into my first classroom, and I got to come to school and decorate the space, and I thought, these kids are gonna come rushing into my classroom, and I'm so excited, and I'm gonna transform their lives, and I was gonna be with my tribe, people that get me, right? Teachers that are lifelong learners too, and we were gonna feel that joy of learning. Then I went to my first professional development session. This is a real over-the-shoulder shot of people that had to come to sit for an hour after teaching all day, exhausted after being with kids, and trying to figure out how they were going to make it for the next hour as someone talked at them. Right? I like to call it the fog of war. You know it. I'm guilty of it. You show up with a stack of papers to grade. You're trying to figure out what tomorrow's lesson looks like. There's someone in the front of the room talking. You're like, yeah, whatever. I have to get this done. I'm under a deadline. Right? You're thinking about, what am I going to have for lunch and when is this going to be over? But what if we could bring joy back to professional learning? Right? What if we could remember that teachers are learners first, collaborating together? Look at these people. They're laughing. They're having so much fun with their learning, yeah? Has anyone read The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch? Great book, right? Once you can see through your tears, then you can get to the message of what he's trying to talk about. But I love one of the things that he talks about, which is the head fake in education. And the head fake is when you kind of trick people into thinking that you're going one way when indeed you're really going another. And as a learning coach, I love to use the head fake all the time when we talk about experiences. We wanted our teachers to write good lesson plans. So to do that, we got them to create books, step-by-step guide books on how to tie your shoelaces, right? So it turned into like the new version of West Side Story, Sharks versus Jets, over whether it was bunny ears or the over-under was the best way. And there was so much laughter and so much learning. And the head fake in that was that you can't leave any steps out of good lesson planning. Yeah? And that was joyful learning. In Bruce Mal's book, The Third Teacher, he talks about growth. And what is growth really? He talks about how joy is the engine of growth, right? Well, growth is different from something that happens to you. Growth is what happens when you are open to the experiences of events. Just like ISTE, you come, you're open to that idea, and the willingness to be changed by them. Growth also happens when you allow space for the ideas of others and space for your own growth of ideas that you haven't had yet, right? When you step outside of the classroom and you wonder what else is going on in the building. But growth also happens in the places that Dr. Seuss calls the waiting places. It's the unintended spaces. My husband and I, after school every day, we walk and we have a coffee together. And in the walk and at the coffee shops, we have our best ideas. We sit and talk about our day and we're like, what if, or what if we could do this? And that's where our best ideas happen. The same with my colleagues when we have lunch together outside of school. So one of the things we want to talk about is how teachers are learners first, right? Think back to the amazing learning experiences that you've had here at ISTE, the feelings that surround the joy of that learning. That's the learning we want our students to have in the classroom, right? But leaders are learners too. That's how they got to be leaders. And we need leaders to return to the roots of their learning and design really great professional learning so that we have the opportunity to be engaged in the kind of learning we want to see in classrooms, right? But with this new learning, there's a fear of failure. It's at least as great as the fear of success, because if it's successful, things are going to change. And are we ready for that? Of course we are, right? Because when we make the investment in teachers, right, and engaging professional learning with time for professional practice, then we guarantee the success of pedagogy and technology. So, because we're all superhero learners too, and you have always all been superhero learners all of your career. You believe that you can fly, that you can change the world, right? And that everything is possible, yes? And we want our students to experience that fearlessness, that true growth. Then we need to learn to be fearless in our own learning. So let's create and participate in learning experiences that engage us. It's not just this one-time experience. It has to be more than that. And how do we do it? Not alone. We have a PLN. We have people that we work with who are our tribe. And we want to create professional learning that's systemic and sustainable over time, right? Let's go from being developed to an active learning journey. We think it's time to bring joy to professional learning, and our experiences help us create that same joy for our students. This is the class of 2034. Are you ready? They're coming to you, right? Self-driving cars, artificial intelligence, robotics are going to be part of their real world. It's the Jetsons come to life, for anybody that remembers the Jetsons. I'm probably dating myself a little bit. Yeah, thank you. How are we learning to learn, and how are we having learning experiences that are going to match theirs, right? What are the new skills that we can acquire to prepare for joyful professional learning? And how does that learning joy feel like theirs? Yeah? Just like the kindergartners, you ran toward the learning here at ISTE, yes? So let's create the adult kindergarten phenomena where we run with our students toward professional learning with that same excitement and enthusiasm. Thank you.